conversation.
So you had to take it out, but you had to leave it intact. So I'm sorry, Joe.
No, it's okay. I'm resident of.
You don't want to You don't want to put it in a salad later.
Okay, I get it. Let's get this atrocity over with.
I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Sades, joined by my buddy Butch Rosenbalm, my buddy Gordon Dymowski, my buddy Patrick McCray, and we're here to talk Escape from New York, John Carpenter's immortal classic, at least one of them. It's not named Halloween. So this is a great movie. Stars Kurt Russell. Charles Cypress is in this bad boy. I mean, my God. Let's see who else. Lee Van Cleef is in this movie.
Adrian Barbeau.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance is in this movie. And
Isaac Hayes, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yep, Isaac Hayes, Harry Dean Stanton. So,
I'll tell you what, if you were married to any major person involved in this movie, you better just get a lawyer because the divorce is on its way.
Susan Hubley, since you said that.
And Adrian Barbeau.
And as the city of New York, the city of St. Louis. No, seriously, they filmed it in St. Louis.
My God. Wait,
I'll even point out appropriate landmarks as we go along. So, because I think this discussion is going to end up becoming a war crime if I'm not careful. You know what I'm saying, people? You know what I'm saying, people. You know, watching out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, my God.
I was only following orders.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, so.
You're in a mood tonight, Gordon.
Jesus Christ. So, Butch, when did you first see Escape from New York, buddy?
This is my first memory of Escape from New York. Is everybody old enough, except for Joel, to remember Siskel and Ebert at the movies?
Sure.
One of the very first times I ever saw it, they were reviewing it, and it was the "I'm ready to kick your ass out of the World War" hero scene.
Now wait, did Gene say that to Roger, or did Roger say that to Gene?
Gene Roddenberry.
God.
But I was instantly transfixed, and we were spending the summer somewhere in Nashville. My dad used to work for TVA, and during the summer we'd go stay with him during the week, because usually he'd go to work and then come home on Friday night. And I begged and it did no good. And then finally I happened to see it on cable a few years later, and the love that a lot of people of my generation have, and I'm not talking smack here, for the Goonies or certain other films, that's what I feel for Escape from New York. Ask my wife. I love this film. It's amazing. It blew me away when I first saw it. And so I saw it somewhere around 1984, 85, to answer your question, Joel.
Very, very nice. Gordon, when did you first see this?
I first saw this when I was in high school, and I lived near the Brighton Theater, which was a second-run theater. So you'd have movies do an initial run, and then you'd have like smaller theaters that would do movies to kind of extend them, because we didn't have video. You had to, if you wanted cheap out, and we didn't have all the torrents and the if you missed a movie, you were screwed. And luckily, the Brighton had Dollar Tuesdays. You could normally, a ticket was $1.75, but if you clipped out a teeny tiny little ad that popped out on Tuesday and you brought it, you could see it for $1. And I saw this movie for $1. And this is this is one of the more formative movies of my, this is one of those films that got me to go, yeah, this is what movies should be about. I loved it. It's one of my favorite movies. It's kind of one of those. It's just got so much really good stuff in it.
Yeah. Patrick, when did you first see Escape from New York?
I was very precise. I believe it was July 17th, 1981.
Oh.
Which was the day that it, I believe, opened wide in the country. It opened on July 10th in New York and LA, and then opened wider. Then that was one of 3 or 4 absolutely extraordinary summers for movies that we had, and it's a real benchmark to me of the lack of excitement that Hollywood manages to generate now with its summer releases. I don't really want to get into talking about modern movies, but I'll talk about older films and say that I don't mind sounding like a relic when I say this. You used to go to the theaters and look forward to trailers, and you couldn't keep track of all of the movies that you wanted to see. And in 1981, we had Raiders of the Lost Ark, we had For Your Eyes Only, we had Superman 2, and we had Escape from New York, and I think Dragon Slayer, maybe.
Right, yeah, right around there.
Yeah, it was just an unbelievable summer for films, and Escape from New York was one of them. Of course, you had a mid-budget release movie, but you would only have maybe one huge mega budget release film, and in this case that would have been Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that kind of just stood on its own. And then you had everything else that was really good, and no one was counting how much it cost when you went into the theater, and Hollywood was able to survive on that. And the thing about Escape from New York that was so extraordinary, I mean, for one thing, it had such attitude. And I had not seen the Clint Eastwood westerns. I mean, I knew Dirty Harry, and I was familiar with that kind of stoic character. But call it sacrilege, but Kurt Russell does it more interestingly with a snappier script by John Carpenter. Because it's almost like Clint would go through and cross out things that would be too entertaining. Not that he was boring, but he likes his movies very ascetic. He likes his movies as stoic as the characters they contain sometimes, so that when there is that one laugh line, it just explodes. And Escape from New York was sort of like a Clint Eastwood movie with fizz. It just had a soda back going on with it, and we had never seen anything, I think, that edgy. Edgy prior to this was stuff like French Connection or whatever that was so serious that you kind of felt guilty wanting it to be fun. This managed to take the grittiness of all of that and the polish that was building with all the Lucasfilm stuff and so on that was clearly coming in the zeitgeist, and it just smashed them right together. Seeing that in a theater, basically on opening night in Louisville, at least, with a crowd that had been primed for it, with great movies all summer, and they were ready for another one, and we got one. And I still remember the conversation that my mother and her colleagues had when we left the movie. And, that was a film, at that point I was going to see rated R movies anyway, but that was a movie that was just, I don't know what it was rated, but it was so good that it didn't matter. She was an English professor, and it still didn't matter. She and the other English professors were going to see Escape from New York, and they did. And, it was a movie that had that kind of broad appeal. And it was fantastic. I think, like has been said here, it was kind of a transformative film. I didn't know characters could be that way. I didn't know they could do that. And Snake Plissken, considering how few lines he has, they have such a rich mythology around him without it ever feeling forced. Like, the conversation that Obi-Wan and Anakin have at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. Remember the time where, this movie manages to do that, but it does it so subtly that you don't notice. And it feels like a natural outgrowth of something. And it feels like this is a character, the first time I saw it, this is a character I have been seeing in movies for years, and this is just another installment of his adventures.
Yeah, this movie feels like it has a lot of lore to it, but when you look at the actual screenplay, that lore is never stated out loud. It's always, and it's never through like, hey, remember the big something something of something something? It's always like the dialogue suggests the history, the dialogue and the action and the like. For Escape from New York, there's actually a deleted scene where they actually filmed the crime that Snake Plissken got arrested for. The smartest thing Carpenter did was take it out, because all you need to know is, oh yeah, you robbed the Federal Reserve. Okay, this is not someone you want to mess with.
Yeah. I first saw this movie 1999, and what a film, on television too. And then I saw Escape from LA after it. We won't get into that one. But this film is really, really good. I mean, John Carpenter. Let me ask you guys this, because him and Deborah Hill teamed up a lot for the release of his movies, Deborah Hill production. How important was Deborah Hill to John Carpenter, and maybe Carpenter to the late Deborah Hill? I think.
I assume very. I don't know a lot about their partnership, but if it's a good John Carpenter movie, chances are her name is near it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thought.
It seemed to be, a symbiosis between the two. Like Patrick said, if it's a good John Carpenter movie, she's probably produced it. I think they really got each other, and there wasn't a whole lot of, okay, well, now in this scene, blah 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 blah, and he's going to talk about his feelings and blah blah. I think it was just kind of a read the script. Okay, I got it. Let's go.
Butch, what was his last movie with her?
I think Vampires. I'd have to look it up, but I think it's Vampires.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
Good for her. All right. I was right.
While you chat amongst yourselves, I'll look it up real quick.
I think when you look at John Carpenter, Deborah
I
Hill's,
think technically it was Escape from LA, unless you count the remake of The Fog. So yeah, she was she was the producer. They started working together on Assault on Precinct 13. And I think what she did, John Carpenter, I'm going to get to the point by a roundabout way. John Carpenter has always cited that one of his favorite directors was Howard Hawks. And Howard Hawks was never an auteur in the sense of he had a distinct style. I mean, this is the same guy who did Rio Bravo, also directed His Girl Friday.
And Bringing Up Baby. Greatest screwball comedy ever. Yeah.
And I think Carpenter has the kind of brain where he doesn't just do one thing. He does mashups, to use a more modern word. And I think Hill was able to kind of mold his talent and work with his talent in a way where she got the best out of his scripts. She got the best out of his filmmaking. You look at something like this, and then something like Vampires, which she wasn't part of. You can tell that both movies have a sense of lore. The difference is Escape from New York never has the scenes that Vampires did, where it's like, yeah, I know you're a vampire, your dad died, blah 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 blah. Escape from New York, you don't really need to know Snake Plissken's background. You don't need to know his parentage. All you need to know is he was arrested for a badass crime. He's the only guy who can rescue the president. And there's such a compactness and a tightness and a drive to Carpenter's work. And I think Hill was able to kind of channel that into a narrative.
And you are correct, Gordon. It was Escape from LA, and then they got back together on the remake of The Fog, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they did a remake of The Fog.
Well, I think they did, but they renamed it to, something like, Uncle Chuckle's really bad Halloween remake, and it went straight to Dollar Tree.
Seriously, they made a remake before.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did. But as Butch is right, it doesn't exist. It was wiped. There's no physical copies. Let's move on.
Move on.
It was very much a CW film.
Oh.
And it has people from CW in it too. That's yeah.
Wake me up before you go.
I really, really enjoyed that. It just seems like when John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, anytime they were together, there was never a bad film from Carpenter. Hill was really involved in production of Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween. I mean, she really did an amazing job. And I do agree with you. She got John Carpenter in every sense. Just an amazing producer she was. And it had been really, the one thing I think biggest regret Halloween fans have is Mustafa Cod Jamie Lee Curtis had reached out to John and Deborah to work on Halloween H12, but they were both busy at the time. And I wish they would have gotten together to do at least that film, because I think it would have been a way better film than what it is.
That movie, I'm sure, would have benefited, and their overall integrity would have dropped.
Yeah. You know what the big regret I have is? The big regret I have is that they kept making Halloween films after Halloween 3. That's the big regret.
Oh, now, all right. Now this is... Which I really liked that episode where Spock became kind of human. The transport guy. I thought that was fun.
Oh my god!
And he got the eye patch.
So, very familiar faces in this movie. Lee Van Cleef, especially. I really enjoyed him and Kurt Russell's chemistry. What did you guys think of Lee Van Cleef in this movie?
In the commentary, there's multiple on the Blu-ray and the special edition, but the John Carpenter, Kurt Russell one, Kurt Russell mentioned that they talked about that Kurt was supposed to play Snake like Clint Eastwood in the Dollars trilogy versus Lee Van Cleef, and it's almost a baton passing moment from the action / Western stars of the 60s and 70s going into the 80s with this. And Lee Van Cleef is one of those actors that, if he's in a film, I'll probably give it a shot. God bless him. His part will be good. Maybe can't say anything about the rest of the film, but I like the way they. They're basically two completely opposite men, and at the end, you're still going to kill me? I'm too tired. And that is such a great Howard Hawks line in my mind. I could hear Humphrey Bogart say that. I could hear so many other actors say that. It's just they played well off of each other.
Yeah, that role was such a Lee Van Cleef role. You couldn't really give it to anybody else. You know what I mean? And I think Lee Van Cleef also gives that. Even though it's not technically a spaghetti western, it's like Carpenter saying, "Look, yeah, it's a spaghetti western. Here's Lee Van Cleef. Draw your own conclusions."
Yeah. Patrick,
did Lee Van Cleef play Cornelius in Planet of the Apes? Because the voices are so similar. Anyway, doesn't Hulk put on some glasses in this movie?
Yeah.
At one point, it'd be nice if he looked up at the camera, because we could finally see Lee Van Cleef with open eyes. He would be able to stop squinting. I think he just didn't have glasses, and that's why he's always doing this.
You want to see Lee Van Cleef without glasses? What is it? Beast from 40,000 Fathoms?
But Butch, if I saw him without glasses, he'd be fuzzy. I would have to wear them. Anyway.
And there's only one thing. There's only one thing that's more fascinating than Lee Van Cleef without glasses. Jack Elam looking somewhat normal in Kansas City Confidential.
That's right. Getting that lazy eye repaired.
Mhm.
The God, he was good in Cannonball Run. Lee Van Cleef is he's perfect in the film. He's great. I'm sure there are other actors, they could have gotten for the part and they would have been really good. But it instead of that exercise, I started thinking about, and this is in all seriousness, all of the great film roles that would have been wonderful to see Lee Van Cleef in. Lee Van Cleef is Han Solo. That's a very nervous Darth Vader. And I mean, it goes on. And this plays into an idea that I want to launch when this discussion sort of comes to an end. So let's bookmark this.
Okay. Also, we have Charles Cypress in this movie. The guy who played Daniel Chalice in Halloween 3 Seasons Witches in this movie. So you have some Halloween alums in this movie, which is a lot of fun.
Jewel, and who also was in Ninth Configuration. He's one of the MPs in Ninth Configuration. Tom Atkins. His mustache was on loan to the Smithsonian when he filmed it, so he was tougher to recognize. But thrill me.
Yeah, Joel. Why didn't you recognize that? Were you not paying attention?
I didn't recognize.
When you watch a movie, you can't be doing other stuff. You have to watch the movie.
I didn't recognize him without the stash. I'm going to tell you. It's that mustache. And listen, John Carpenter missed that mustache so bad and that face so bad. Just go watch Prince of Darkness for proof. Anyway,
Parker Stevenson had the mustache. It was magnificent.
So
that mustache, Prince of Darkness, should have gotten its own credit.
It should have too. Well, the reason we're here is because the president of the United States, who's played by Donald Pleasance, a British guy, his plane, Air Force One, gets crashed into New York City. His pod bails out, so he's there. He gets captured by Isaac Hayes' group, the Duke of New York.
Duke of New York is a number one.
And so Bob Houck has a plan to send in, Snake Plissken to rescue the president, and they have a little little plan here that they put some stuff in his neck. They put some stuff in Snake Plissken's neck that'll kill him, so he doesn't get the idea to just take the jet and take off, and just go to the border of Canada. God bless Canada. But so, what did you guys think of Donald Pleasance as the president of the United States?
Well, it's Merkin Muffley from. It's basically playing Merkin Muffley from Doctor Strangelove. I was watching Doctor Strangelove today, and I realized, oh my God, that's Donald Pleasance. And there's a part of me that kind of wonders. I mean, Carpenter, once he gets his venerable older actor, he's going to hang on to him, But there's another part of me that also wonders if Carpenter was thinking, my God, that's Merkin Muffley. I this time when I watched it, I almost expected him to say, are you sure this thing is safe, when he's getting into the pod?
It may have even been more like, okay, Carpenter's looking at the budget. Okay, who do I get to play the president? And Donald says, hey, I'll do it. You can even pay me by just letting me eat at craft services. So there you go.
Donald Pleasance do a lot for KFC gift certificates.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
The British love KFC.
So the Japanese
do. They're nuts for it.
Butch,
there's a you were given a quick synopsis. I want to throw something in that's apparently only in the novel. Bob Houck, played by Lee Van Cleef, talks to Snake, and he wants Snake to look for his son who has been sent into New York and find out if he's still alive.
So
So
was Hulk's son the first person to go on to try and find the president?
I can't remember if like he was in New York when they walled it up, or if he was a criminal. I think he was a criminal and got sent there, but he wanted to find out, hey, is he still alive? Whatnot.
It'd be funny if Snake is going to the ultralight and he's just approached by more and more people. There's this long list of people he has to find before.
Okay, here's a list. If you're on here, work it up. Donald Pleasance.
Okay, number 38, Joe Franklin. I think Joe got out, but I don't know. Ernest
Donald Pleasance as the president. You're not supposed to like him, and Donald does a good job. According to the commentary, both Kurt Russell and John Carpenter talking about what a pleasure he was to work with, how much fun he was to work with, and all his ideas that they used in the movie, and he plays a good weasel. I mean, that's basically what he is, and he does it great. He does it greatly.
There's a gag that I really would have liked to have seen where he's being shot at. His arms are up and all of that, and it's where they just get his belt buckle and his pants fall down, and he has like the polka dotted boxer shorts and sock garters.
Actually, I would have loved to have just seen like Batman underwear, just
in the middle of all of this.
Well, unfortunately, Donald Pleasance had a history when he would do film roles of going commando.
My God.
That's why John Carpenter wouldn't, because it's a natural gag. But once you heard, it's like, yeah, they didn't want that R rating to go to X for whatever reason.
Oh my God. Isaac Hayes really does a great job playing the movie's heel in this movie, the Duke of New York, that is. And John Carpenter always did take some strange casting decisions. I mean, here's Isaac Hayes. Later on, he's going to cast Roddy Piper in a lead role for They Live. So what did you guys think of Isaac Hayes as the main villain in this movie?
If they had just gotten, if Harold had been able to distill some Visine, Duke of New York would have mellowed out tremendously. Would have gotten rid of that twitch. I feel sorry for him. I mean, what's in his eye? Can we fix that? And maybe he'll mellow out and he'll go to the musical.
That's the only time he twitches is when Snake's around. So Snake makes him twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
apparently that was a Isaac Hayes suggestion that he's cool. I don't have sunglasses on, but cold laid back in his car with the chandelier headlights. But then Snake's there and he starts getting the twitch, and it's almost a foreshadowing that he somehow subconsciously knows it's all going to hell. Snake Plissken's here. I'm not making it out.
It was nice while it lasted. There goes the neighborhood. Guess who's coming for president? Anyway.
Yep, no hot buttered soul too.
That was a good one.
Really, really, really good movie. I like the fact that the chemistry between him and Kurt Russell, they do a really good job of one being the protagonist, one being the heel. And he seems like a legit threat. I mean, he's not, you don't laugh at him. He's very serious when he's on screen, which I like. And so he's a believable heel. But I think who somewhat steals this movie a bit is actually the character of Brain a bit. Somebody
Harry
who's
Stanton, yeah,
Harry Dean Stanton. I love the fact that his character knew Snake Plissken, and I love how Snake Plissken's like, Harold, you double crossed us. Do you know what they did to Fresno Bob.
Fresno Bob.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god! And I love how Kurt Russell's like, after so long, the president ain't gonna be no good no more, so I might as well look by myself. And he cocks that gun, and the girl's like, brain, and he's like, talk to him, baby. I saw he's like, he's gonna cap them both. What did you guys think of Cabby in this movie, Ernest Borgnine?
Borg of Nine, I will be assimilated. He's marvelous. He's the heart of the movie.
Yeah. How dare you mock Ernest Borgnine, Jewel? He is the linchpin of this movie. He is a classic actor. How dare you even suggest he is the highlight of this movie? Because he's fun. He's got that kind of goofy look. I mean, he is a linchpin. Jewel, shame on you, Jewel. Shame on you.
Ow.
Oh my god.
Joel is an Ethel Merman man, and they had a bad falling out. So he's gonna stick up for Ethel.
Oh my god. Butch go.
Everything's coming up, bro.
And he all kidding aside, he's everything they said. He's the heart of the movie. He strikes me. Another thing that comes from the novel, there were people in New York that stayed. Apparently they evacuated it before they turned it into a prison. And he was one of them. Apparently, if I remember correctly from the novel, his wife was sick and she couldn't drive, couldn't get taken out anyway. So she passed away, and he just stays there in New York driving his cab. For what? I don't know. Interesting barter system.
What in the novel? I got to ask you, because you're the Pliskenologist here. What made the richest real estate this side of Dubai suddenly so toxic that the United States was okay with turning it into a prison?
Donald Trump.
I mean, why is this not Escape from Branson or something?
I don't think it really goes into it too much, other than like the opening crawl about crime rate rises 4,000% and all that. And it's funny. My sister, who Patrick has met, loves New York City. I personally never cared for it. I'm more of an LA man. I grew up watching Dragnet, Adam 12, and all those shows. And we were talking one time. She's like, well, why don't you like New York? And I think part of it was growing up, so many cop shows were set in New York. Kojak always jumps to mind. Police Story, I believe, I can't remember if Police Story was New York or not, but so many shows were set there. And it had the probably false, probably exaggerated reputation / appearance of a crime-ridden cesspool. I mean, I used to joke for a long time before the movie The Day After Tomorrow came out. When I finally saw it, I'm like, it finally gives New York what New York needs: a bath.
Well, I mean, Rudy Giuliani did that. You would not, if your vision of New York is kind of, it's Shaft, the way we saw it in the 70s, Times Square and so on and so forth, you wouldn't recognize it. It's
the adult theaters down on Times Square showing, with the
Golden Age is gone.
Yeah.
I think it didn't help that at the time in the late 70s, there's a general sense of like urban decline in not just New York, but Chicago, Detroit, and several other cities. I think New York was probably had the most visibility. And I think the whole idea of I think people were actually talking about hey, let's just put a fence around it and separate it from the country. So Carpenter was probably building on that.
Hey,
Chicago,
Patrick, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know what to say, because I can know with Chicago, part of what helped it turn around was when Mayor Byrne, the original Mayor Daley the First, had blocked any kind of Hollywood involvement with the city because there's an episode of M Squad that suggested that policemen may be corrupt. I know this shocks all of you.
Chicago? Oh no.
Especially in Chicago, this may be surprising. Okay, but she actually opened up to the Blues Brothers because I remember seeing like actual press conferences, and they actually filmed part of it at where my mom worked, and I remember watching on the news how they're filming the scene where it crashes into the Daily Center. So I think that the idea of putting Manhattan in fencing off Manhattan comes from that kind of late 70s. You know, what the heck are these people doing? So
I just didn't know if
can't
there was some
remember.
additional rationalization in the book or something.
I don't recall any, but I've not read it in a long time. You probably remember better than I do. Where does Soylent Green take place? Because in my mind, that was always New York City.
yes,
whether it was
it's New York.
or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, it went from, you know, this great thing and talk about the decline and then the perception and even the fake future of movies like that. And yeah, let's just put all of them in there.
You know, well, there was this guy in Chicago named Al Capone who gave it this great reputation back in the heyday.
What do you mean we?
Well, I mean, come on.
He's speaking French.
When a guy named Al Capone decides to commit cold-blooded murder in the streets, lines up some guys against the wall, and has people dressed like cops shoot those people, and it's called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which I learned in the goddamn 5th grade. Thank you, Mr. Elias, if you're watching this. Not that I think you are. But still, there's some really messed up stuff that happens in big cities, and a lot of it involves organized crime. Just saying.
I don't know what's up with you people. The corrupt cops, organized crime. Y'all
I
wearing
hate to tell you,
tonight.
corruption is just not limited to just big cities. Okay,
It's true.
Well,
You know what Giancana? You know what Sam Giancana said about Louisville? He hated Louisville because he hated the Louisville cops. He didn't respect them because they were too easy to bribe.
Yeah, so maybe don't have Chicago in your mouth, Joel. You know what I mean?
Momo.
Keep the name of Chicago and the name of Al Capone out of your damn mouth.
Speaking of keeping it out of your mouth, there's this thing about John Dillinger. And that's the long and the short of it.
Oh my
Definitely the long, which I found out. Thank you, Book of Lists, #1.
Hey, the Smithsonian's a wonderful museum. Anyway, Joel, what else are we talking about here?
Okay, so for Escape from New York, you guys are talking about that this is filmed there's landmarks of something else, or Gordon was talking about.
There's it was filmed in St. Louis because St. Louis was one of those cities that in the late 70s suffered a decline, including a series of both fires and riots. So it looked like a bombed out post-apocalyptic Manhattan. Damn. So the scene where Snake is going into the theater, that's the Fox Theater. It was renovated in like the late 90s. It now serves as like it's like a theater for like Broadway style shows. Some of the street scenes, one is a strip called Locust, which is mostly industrial, commercial, and it's still there to that day. Another strip was Washington Avenue, which is now kind of the hip hop, kind of nightclub scene. The place where they go, where he's in the arena and they're filming throughout that is Union Station. That is the big train station in St. Louis. When I lived there, it was like a mini mall with a hotel. I think they've turned it into condos. And they actually filmed like the scenes in the theater where they're walking around were actually scenes in the theater. The scene where they're going down into the library, I think that's actually the main library in St. Louis on Olive Avenue. So my favorite story, and I think it's actually on one of the featurettes, one of the DVD. You know the plane that when they see the plane crash,
Yeah.
crash plane. I think one of their production assistants actually found like segments of a plane in Arizona. So he buys the plane, sneaks it under cover of night to St. Louis, and they filmed that there. And once they actually filmed it, and the mayor found out, he had a fit because
Why?
because he wasn't expecting one to have a plane smuggled into his city, to have it filmed burning in the middle of the night. And the thing you have to understand about St. Louis is St. Louis will take St. Louis is having lived in St. Louis, I can say dealing with St. Louis is like dealing with a person who has self-esteem issues. Anyone who comes from St. Louis will insist that they're from St. Like John Hamm when he was on Mad Men would always say, "Yeah, I love this role. Oh yeah, and I'm from St. Louis."
I knew a guy from St. Louis, Stephen Perkins, and he would talk about St. Louis all the time.
And so St. Louis likes to point out strong things about itself. You never hear St. Louis take pride in, yeah, they filmed Escape from New York here because we represented an apocalyptic New York.
I think there's a section of East St. Louis, maybe called East St. Louis, that is the worst neighborhood in America. It's apparently like shortest life expectancy, just crazy.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, East St. Louis is literally across the river from St. Louis, which is why it's called East St. Louis. There's also a town nearby called Sauget, and you'll often hear of the Sauget Ballet, which means precisely what you think it does. Strip clubs, Patrick, strip clubs. And Sauget is also, you know how most towns don't want like polluters and chemicals and big business in there? That's how Sauget gets. It's why he's like, hey, come in, dump your chemicals here, open your strip clubs. Hey, we're fun. So
my kind of time.
I don't. Yeah. Jules laughing like, oh yeah, no, Jules, this is serious.
I'm very serious.
And Joel, I'm shocked that you have not brought up the acting talents of Adrienne Barbeau in this movie.
I was waiting.
Shame on you, Joel.
I was good, man.
You're running a loose ship, Joel. I am disappointed in you. I expected better from you.
Hey, one quick thing about the plane crash.
Yeah.
Carpenter says in the commentary that people saw it and started calling it in to the police and reporting an actual plane crash.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching it. I mean, we got a pretty big TV, and I was watching it, and I was just like, I don't know what plane crashes look like, but I presume they look something like that. I mean, it just.
I first saw Adrienne Barbeau not in this movie. This wasn't my first movie I saw her in. First movie I saw her in was Swamp Thing, actually. Great, saw it on VHS. Great movie, and I really, really enjoyed her in The Fog. Obviously, in this movie, yeah, I do agree with you. She does steal this movie in every way because she's in love with Harold. She's in love with the brain in every way. She's not his servant or slave. She's somebody her character is literally somebody who is head over heels in love with the man and would die for him. And once he dies, she feels I've lost everything I've ever cared about. And she does die. I mean, she's shooting bullets at the Duke, and he kills her with his car. We all know what Donald Pleasance does with the Duke. His character does. But
Donald Pleasance knows how to aim, though.
Yeah, that's true. Adrienne Barbeau didn't.
Interesting.
He was always safe to stand next to at a urinal.
Exactly.
Adrienne Barbeau went to the Barnabas Collins School of Shooting the Gun. Meaning I can't. So Donald Pleasance went to the Lamont Cranston School of Shooting, which means he can shoot. So there's that. It's really, really cool that she does stand out in this movie, and she does get to steal this movie, because there's so many men in this movie. There's very little actually woman roles in it. And the fact that she's in this movie, The Fog, by the way, she steals The Fog very much. No offense to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, she's the main character.
Well, though,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to
but
to
hold on.
like
Look who's in that movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's a who's who of who's in that movie.
No, he's not in the movie.
Though I think he does
but-
get hit a couple of times.
But Jewel, Adrienne Barbeau's name like comes closer to the front. So yeah, she would be the star of The Fog.
I know she's the star of it, but she also steals the damn movie too.
Well, she's a star. She's supposed to steal the movie.
You hope that she does, or at the very least get your attention. And she does. Oh goodness.
I like her as the snake lady in Carnival.
Have you
Really?
She's wonderful. She's
Have
great.
you ever seen Have you ever seen her in Swamp Thing?
Oh yeah.
I'm no commie. I saw Swamp Thing in the theaters.
Yeah.
One of the first films I saw on HBO.
Cool. Yeah, she does. You guys are right. She does steal this movie. But what did Jins all think of Adrian's performance?
I thought it was wonderful. She is a beautifully intense actress of fearless intelligence and integrity. I really like her.
Butch?
Yeah, she holds her own. She's the Lauren Bacall of this film, since there is that Hawks riff going on, and she stays right there with them. She's just as tough. She's just as badass, and she's also incredibly beautiful, and walking around and yeah, she. I don't know. Whether she steals the film or not, but she certainly catches your attention when she's on screen. And one thing I found was interesting, listening to the commentary, I'd forgotten. Once, when she's shooting at the Duke and she's standing in front of a car, he rams this car, and of course you don't really see anything. Well, apparently during a test screening, they were like, "Well, what happened to her?" I'm like, I'm watching this film going, she was in front of a car that just got hit. Yeah, so they very hastily, she was married to Carpenter at the time, basically went out to their garage. She put that dress on. She's laying down in the garage looking dead. He throws some blood on her and films for, a minute. And okay, throws it into film. And that's how you know she died. I'm like, really? I was pretty sure she got hit by the car. But still, sometimes we have to explain things for people. Ain't that right, Joe?
I guess so. Jesus Christ. Like, who did they have to explain this to? Like a test audience or what?
The parrot. Apparently. The parrot that they had, that Snake Plissken had, that was digitally removed when it tested poorly.
Yeah, they also had to like edit some scenes because like Snake had a pet monkey named Roscoe. And Roscoe had like a Tommy gun, and they just thought it didn't quite work with the general vibe of the film.
So that's why they went back in and filmed the scene with the giant rifle, because that was
right.
Shoot. And speaking of actors and actresses that Joel hasn't mentioned, Joel still hasn't brought up Frank Doubleday, and I'm just waiting on that.
Well, since you brought him up, go ahead, Butch.
He was a few early I almost said Ramiro Carpenter films. He plays a character named Ramiro, and for anybody that doesn't know who Frank Doubleday is, he's the guy inside the New York prison that first comes out to meet Bob Hawke and does that and he's got this crazy hair.
Yeah, him. Yeah. He's the cold miser.
And he's in it, and he did, in my opinion, a great job in Assault on Precinct 13. Assault from New York. Let me just throw them all together. And in this film, he actually gets to have whereas that character, the gang leader, was just going to kill people. Ramiro actually has some funny lines, does some funny things. There's one point where he's up near the president and he's like,
Yeah.
and I without being comic relief, he's kind of comic relief. You know, you're able to chuckle and have a little release there with him. He looks like he's having a hell of a time, at least until he gets killed.
Agreed.
I like how he just points at Harold like. So, Butch, what did you? I'm sorry, Gordon. What did you think of it?
I thought he did a really good job of being both funny and creepy. You know, he's the because you need that kind of. He also helps set the tone of the film because it would have easily been. I mean, this was kind of the very early phase of the whole post-apocalyptic. You know, things are really messed up, and it could have been easy to play this strictly as like pure comedy, like "Ooh, look at me, I'm crazy," or really psychotic. You know, or really leaning into the more that edge. He gives it that edge that allows you to go in and know these are the stakes. You know, the fact that he reaches in and pulls out the president's finger with the big ring on it shows you they're not you know, they mean business. So I think he does a really good job of there's enough both menace and comedy there that you never feel like he's leaning heavily into one or the other. And that's kind of the easiest way. He provides an easy way into the movie.
Yeah. He does do a really great job of, like you said, being both creepy and a bit comic relief. But he knows when to be serious too. He's a fun character to watch in the movie. I love how, like I said, I love how he just points at the brain when they're standing there by the trains, like because the brain Harold tells the Duke, he had a gun in my head. Duke was supposed to
Duke.
Yeah, it's like, and the Duke's like, oh my god.
It's all true.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything I want to ask. I don't have any more questions for you guys. If there's anything you want to add, please do.
Great movie. Go watch it.
It's free on Tubi, and you have no excuse not to see this.
Yeah,
In fact, pause this, go watch it now, and come back.
And start it over.
Yeah. Especially since you want to catch Patrick's surprise conversation towards the end. So
this is a great film. I'm thankful there's no sequel to sully its name and bring shame upon it. All kidding aside, there is a sequel, Escape from LA, and I have an idea. I've had an idea for years about writing an article where you have Escape from New York, which is a lower budget film that looks like a immensely budget film, and how you have Escape from LA, which is this immense budget film that somehow looks like it was filmed on about $250. But I remember when I watched this, I believe my dad was with me, and he said, "Do you remember watching him?" referring to Kurt Russell in the Disney movies. They, of course, you know, when we were kids, that was basically the only quote kids films. And I was like, no. He's like, he was in the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes and something. You know, he was mentioned of it. Looking back, first of all, this film made me a Kurt Russell fan. Second of all, it showed his range and what a good actor he is to go. You know, it launched the career. And yeah, all kidding aside, Gordon's right. If you've not watched this film, you need to go watch it. Personally, I would recommend going and buying the Blu-ray and sitting down and watching it all. But it's actually a good enough film that you can watch it with commercials, and you don't lose a lot of steam. Like when we were doing Assault from Precinct 13 last week, that's a film that loses something if you watch it with commercials. But in my opinion, make it yours. You can watch Escape from New York with commercials, and it doesn't really lose anything. It's not like there's a little clock ticking down like you feel like with Assault on Precinct 13.
And if you're smart and you either work with a browser like Brave or get an ad blocker extension, you don't have to worry about commercials on Tubi.
What's
Yes.
this?
Yeah,
Say
if you go to Tubi and you use like a browser like Brave that has an ad blocker built in, or
Brave?
Brave.
Okay, I never heard of it.
Well, it's a browser.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking it up now. I just want to make sure I get the name right so I can get it.
Or you get an extension for your current browser, like AdBlock. You don't have to worry about commercials on Tubi. All it'll do is be like a 1 second blip and then straight to the movie.
That's great.
Cool.
And see, this is the kind of advice we give. We give you practical advice. We don't bother with references to other movies. You can rely on me and Patrick and Bush to give you real hard practical tips.
This is just terrible.
Okay, we give you information that you can use.
Unlike Joel.
I'm like a hostage here.
And next week, Patrick will show you how to do serious damage to someone with a common hand towel. Okay.
Oh, we're at the hand towel stage.
Yeah.
Whoa. Boy, we moved up, didn't we?
Oh my God.
Hey, Joel.
Yeah.
Because I have been waiting for months, I'm going to make you say it. What film are we doing next week?
Ravenous. Actually, before we go, Patrick wanted to make a point. We'd mentioned Lee Von Cleef. What was it?
I'm going to talk to you about it afterwards. I'm going to tell you why. Because I think it's an idea for a franchise that a podcast could be part of. It's an amazingly good idea. I will be shocked if someone else hasn't come up with it first, but I'll also be thrilled if someone hasn't come up with it.
Is this the Lee Van Cleef secret agent idea you told me about in private chat about a month ago?
Okay, I'm out.
Well,
I was going to throw a line in about we'll share that with our Patreons.
No, I'm telling you, this is a really good idea.
Hold on. Okay. For Butch Rosenbalm, I'm Joel Sayers. That's Gordon Dymowski. That's Patrick McCray. Links to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page will be in the description box. Links to the Dark Shadows Daybook will be in the description box. I'm going to hit stop record now.